Hey everyone, AJ here. We're doing a resting energy expenditure test with Paul here this morning. So what this test does is tell us his baseline calorie needs when he's just laying at rest. So what this does is help us determine how much he needs to eat just on any given day, and then once we add in his level of training, we can really get an idea of how many calories he's probably burning at the end of any given day, and then provide some nutritional recommendations from there. So for this test, he lies here on this table at rest. We're measuring the gases that he's breathing. He just kind of gets into a Zen state, and then from that we can kind of determine resting oxygen consumption, resting calorie expenditure, things like that, where we get our numbers from. So we're always paying attention to the resting energy expenditure right here. You can see how many calories he's kind of burning, lying on the table right now. We can look at different kinds of fuels that he's utilizing, how much carbohydrates, how much fat he's burning, and then what his resting oxygen consumption is at. So it should all be kind of a baseline heading in that direction. Usually takes about 15 minutes for someone to kind of get down to their baseline values. So we'll just let them sit and relax here for a couple minutes, come check on him until we get the numbers we need. Our
machine.
gas analyzer, yep, and then it can pick up
No,
the stuff we need to.
really easy. Not claustrophobic at all or anything.
Good.
It's not hot.
Perfect, that's what we're hoping. So, I'll set this down here. Pull up the results. So Andy's got you beat on this one, sorry if you're competing in this category too.
The world record.
He's a big man.
World record only has 1
Alright, so here's our kind of 30 second assessments
Oh,
all
goes
along the
each
way. So
one.
this is all the information that we get here over the 15 minutes that we ran this test. But we also get from this is kind of a nice average breakdown. So your resting energy expenditure based on the average of the last 9-minute values there that we got is putting at about 2,200 calories in terms of your baseline metabolism.
Right.
So if we were to rely on the predicted equations that a lot of people use, this is what we would have gotten from that, about 2,000. So about 200 calories off.
Every day, 200 off.
Which is usually what I see when using those prediction equations. So if you can ever measure it, that's usually the best way to get as accurate as possible. You can see there's a little bit of kind of spiking and variation going on. So if we were to extend that test out more, yeah, we probably would have gotten even more and more precise with it, but this still gives us a pretty good idea. So this is where I would start with. So you need at least that every day. And then we add in your job, pretty active job that you have, just activities of daily living, and then your CrossFit training on top of that. That's very easily could double that amount on some days where you're doing more heavy training. So that could mean 4,000 calories is probably how many you're burning. So if you're trying to maintain weight, you got to hit that 4,000 mark on heavy training days, or if you're trying to lose and gain, then you kind of go below or above that. Yep. So that's kind of the information that we get from this test.
Cool.
And then it also looks at fuel utilization. So people who, it tells us kind of what fuel you're relying more on at any given time.
Sure.
And the reason we have you fasted is so this is kind of normalized each time. Otherwise, based on what you have for breakfast, all of the stuff will change. Yep.
Yeah.
So this shows us kind of what percent of your fuels were coming from fat or carbohydrates. You can see most of it was coming from fat because you haven't eaten in 8 hours.
Yeah, 8, 9 hours.
8 plus, so that's pretty normal. You'll see real high percent fat utilization in a extended fasting state. at rest, so you're not doing anything, burning mostly fat as fuel at this time. And then if we were to throw you on a treadmill or bike, get you sprinting, these would start to flip-flop a little bit. You'd be more carb reliant,
Right.
and so forth. So that's this test, and then we'll move over to our bod pod next and get that. So if you want these,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
keep them for your records, and we can do follow-up testing with this stuff too if you
Yeah,
want
definitely.
more of the
No, that'd be
nutrition
sweet.
numbers and things like that. I can help you out. You know, Sam knows how to do all that stuff too. If you have more questions over at UBX. So.
Cool. Perfect.
Go ahead, we'll get your way. All right, hop off. And throw on our lovely swim cap.
Yes.
All right, you're up. We're at 199 today.
Really? That's pretty sweet.
Normal for you?
Probably fluctuates around there, yeah.
Yeah. All right, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
So this is our bod pod, the test that we use for body composition analysis. So Paul's sitting in this chamber here. We'll take 2 readings. Each one takes about 30 seconds. While he's in there, it's measuring the amount of air that he's displacing, and from that and how much he weighs, we can calculate his body density, and then from there we predict what his actual body fat percent is. So once we get that number, we can then break it down into our 2-compartment model, which tells us how much fat mass he has, and how much fat-free mass, again, based on how much he was weighing when he stepped on the scale this morning. So we'll get all that information in just a couple minutes here.
Oh, yeah.
Lean and mean today. I'll put you very active. So body fat percent, 13.2, and then again it breaks it down into a 2-compartment model. So from that we have the amount of fat mass that you have, 26, fat-free mass, 173, and again based on a body mass today of 199 pounds. So from this actually has some of those built-in prediction equations that I told you about.
Oh,
So
like
it
on that.
can predict what your resting metabolic rate was. But again, we saw that was about 200 calories off from what we actually measured. And then if you plug in an activity factor of being very active, so again, based on those days, you're probably burning a little over 4,300 calories and probably higher, because this again underestimated what your actual metabolism was. So kind of gives you an idea.
4,500, huh?
Yeah,
That's a lot.
on a day where you're more active and you're training hard. So if you're on an off day out fishing on a boat, you know, you're probably not going to be doing that much, but you don't just drop back down to this number either. You still want to stay above that, and then make sure you're getting some of those other macronutrient goals, things like that.
Cool.
13.2.
There we go.